I'm going to pick up where I left off a little over a week ago with the boxing in of the 4-link suspension brackets. I cut some pieces that I'm going to need to finish boxing it in. This one is for the backside. This one is strictly aesthetic. There's really no structure related with this piece. It's just to finish boxing in the frame. So I have the 4-link bracket here to box in and finish welding. I have to weld the Panhard bar bracket in. I also went ahead and got a couple scrap pieces of steel. What I'm going to do with these are going to be weld them in on an angle like this and then cut them and trim them just to give this a little bit of stability left to right and rigidity for vibration. So the Panhard bracket, and then I have the rear cross member to finish welding on both sides, and then we're going to focus on the rear. We're going to weld the rear 4-link brackets, Panhard brackets, airbag brackets. So that is the goal for this video. I'm going to set the camera up and we're going to get to doing some welding. So I think I can officially say that the rear half of the frame is now fully welded. I didn't realize how much work was actually left to do on the rear frame as far as welding is concerned. As I was going through all the joints and cross members and brackets, I had to finish welding the air tank brackets. I even had to finish welding the mid cross member, a couple welds on the gas tank straps, and then everything else through that you saw in the video. Mid cross member needed to be welded. I finished boxing in and cleaning up the 4-link bracket. So this is now officially done. When I showed you the piece of non-structural metal that was strictly for aesthetics, I will show you what that was for in here. So up in here, this used to just be a big hole that you could see through the frame, and there was really no need to add any more heavy 1/4-inch plate in there. So that's just a piece of 14 gauge, which it still adds some rigidity, but obviously it's not as strong as 1/4-inch. But I wanted to box in the hole, so now that's all done. Radiused out the brackets, finished welding this side, matched this side as well up in there. Radius these brackets, all kinds of welding. The only thing that I have left to do is I was going to box these in and close these up, but I think I'm going to leave them open because I still need to figure out what I'm going to do as far as a rear bumper, so and a hitch, I guess. So I'm going to leave these open for the time being because I might end up tying the hitch and the bumper brackets into rear opening. So now that the frame is done, that's actually a huge accomplishment. I'm going to just sit here and admire it for a second because it's been a long road to get to this point, and to say that the rear frame is done as far as welding is quite an accomplishment. So I'm super stoked about that. Unfortunately, I don't have anything on the list to cross off until we get the rear done. I pulled the rear out, and now we're going to focus on welding all the brackets, Panhard brackets, and airbag brackets. I was going to put it on jack stands, but I think I'm going to use it like a rotisserie because it spins around real nice, which makes it easier for welding. A little tip that I want to point out: when you're doing the final welding on your brackets of any kind, anytime that you have the ability, see if I can do this without it rolling away. This is my Panhard bar Heim joint. What you want to do is put your either a Heim joint or cut a piece of steel or some kind of method to put in here and tighten this up. I'm just going to hand tight this. So this way here, when you're welding the brackets, we're going to go ahead and box in the back portion of this. So you certainly don't want this to shrink up or expand even when you're doing all the welding. So it's always a good idea to put something in here, and I'll just rotate this around. So same thing with the brackets, shock mounts, and anywhere else that you would have the metal expand and contract when you're welding it. It's always a really good idea to have something in there to help with that. Alright, so we got a fully welded rear now. You don't realize how long and how much welding there is to do until you get down and doing it. I think it took a little over an hour and a half, close to 2 hours, to fully weld this thing. So what I decided to do was I took some plate and actually brought it down to a point on top and bottom to give it some lateral stability left to right, and then to give me an inside weld for the brackets. I boxed in the back side of the shock mounts, boxed in and cleaned up the back of the Panhard bar bracket. I'm going to clean up the welds and some of the slag on the rear brackets. And then once I get that done, we will be able to cross off the next item on the list. So, time to get the grind on. All right, everybody. That's a completed welded rear. That was a lot of work too. It took about 2 hours to get everything welded, ground down and clean. You saw me take a hand file and kind of file down the areas that I couldn't reach with a grinder to get all the slag beads off. But overall, she's complete. And if you've been following along in the video series, the next best part of almost any project is scratching an item off of the list. So we come down to number 22 and weld rear and axle brackets. That is done. Still got a few things to knock off the list, but we have made a ton of progress since the start of this build series on the YouTube. So if you like the progress that we're making, do me a favor, smash that like button, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you want to keep up to date on the progress of this build here. My garage is a mess, I gotta spend some time cleaning it up. But that about wraps it up for the night. My name is Michael. This is Challenge to Build. That's Tow Mater. I'll see you in the next video.